Well, I want to welcome everyone to Microaccounting's presentation for multi-unit franchises and how to make franchise financial simplified. Um, for those who are not familiar with myself, I am Stuart Blumenthal with Microaccounting. I head up our Intaccct practice here at Microaccounting. On the left-hand side, of the PowerPoint, you can see my email address, sblumenthal@microaccounting.com. You can see our phone number and my Twitter account. You're more than welcome to follow me there. Um, the goal of today is to give a quick little introduction of who microaccounting is, talk about the challenges that franchises face on a daily basis, what makes Intaccct work for franchises, and there's specifically a few things that really make Intaccct stand out that makes it helpful for franchises. We will be doing a demonstration, and then we'll have some Q&A. Along the time, please feel free to ask any questions or use the chat features within the GoToMeeting. Unfortunately, because of the number of people on this webinar, we have this muted. So please use the questions and chats. We'll keep this monitored throughout the presentation. So just a quick little introduction about microaccounting. We have been helping businesses since 1988 customize, select, and implement their accounting systems. We've got offices in Chicago and Dallas, but we have clients are all over the country and in fact all over the world. We have done over 1,000 implementations of Intaccct and Sage, and we do everything from on-premise to cloud-based software. We also build mobile apps, focus on business intelligence and hosting. And our mission statement is to improve the business success of our clients through the innovative delivery of business management systems. We always believe in showing what our mission statement is with our clients. So if we look at what challenges that franchises have, the first one is location, location, location. As you know, when you have a single store, single entity, products like QuickBooks, Sage 50, also known as Peachtree, work great. But as you start entering more and more locations, the goal of that is to allocate the cost across the different stores. You're going to have expenses that go to each of those different stores, but also you want to have ones that get allocated across. You also need to be able to consolidate information differently. You might want to roll up 2 or 3 stores to see, in a geographic area to see how they're doing versus another 2 or 3 stores in another geographic area. You have all those different things of how you're going to roll up that information and how to best present that information in a quick and timely manner. And as a result, we've got to make sure that you have consolidations from both reporting and analysis. So number of headcount, how many people did you serve, how many memberships do you have, things like that you need to keep statistics of, and you should be able to keep that within your accounting system, your ERP system as well. We talked about allocation of expenses. As you get things in, you should be able to allocate those expenses, such as an accounting system, to the individual stores so that you can have a true understanding of what your costs are. You need for better financial reports. That is probably the #1 complaint out there, especially for clients currently on QuickBooks. They need better financial reports, and with Intaccct, you'll see that you can get that. And in fact, the difference with Intaccct is that you're not just going to run the reports; that they're going to be part of your dashboard, and we'll talk about that in a moment. And last but not least, faster month-end close. On average, if clients where they have multiple entities take up to 3 weeks to close out their books sometimes. That only gives you 1 week to actually focus on business, and then you're back to another 3-week close at that point. With a product like Intaccct, you should be able to get your closing processes down to within a 7-day period. Hopefully that's what yours, hopefully yours is not longer than that. If it is, then you definitely need to look for a different software. Also, in terms of franchises, the issue that you run into is technology and remote access. You might have people, remote stores entering in, or remote locations entering in invoices that need approval, which is very, very important. And if you start having people accessing the system remotely, when it's a managed solution, You might have to worry about firewalls and remote desktop, and it creates another headache. The beautiful thing about Intaccct is that it's a web-based solution. You can run it from any type of browser, from any type of operating system, so PC or Mac, and allows you to get the work anywhere that works for you. Other things that we run into with franchises is that integration with existing business applications. So, for example, memberships. A lot of people have membership, numbers that need to be fed into statistical accounts and maybe have revenue information brought in to the accounting system. Our job is to help you create that integration with membership software. We can also bring in, for example, for other types of franchises like food industries, bring in what they're being using for example, we have a franchise that does produce, so the amount of lettuce they use, the amount of meat they use, and bring those statistics in, but also again make sure we have got the expenses and the revenue coming in. And the other challenges for franchises is that a majority of franchises are using QuickBooks out there nowadays, and if you're one of them, it's a great entry-level product, but your reliance upon QuickBooks is a challenge for most companies. Just a little success story that we work with a company here by the name of Mountain Fitness. When they went to Intaccct, just to show you, they maintain their company's rapid growth while minimizing their finance overhead. As a result, they actually saved $140,000 in salary costs by switching over to Intaccct. They automated their financial process and shortened the month-end days by 20 days, which, trust me, before, again, they were in that 3 to 4 week. They now are able to focus on their business instead of focusing on month-end. They streamlined their data sharing with several systems and allow them to do the AP workflow process, which again, is an amazing part of Intaccct, where you have the workflow processes that come in and you're able to, based upon the amount of that invoice or that purchase order, you can have approval processes, and then when you pay the check, you can also create another approval process at that point. It's all built into Intaccct, so you're not having to spend extra for approval process. And then last but not least, able to make reports on cash flow and improve business decisions. So as you can see, the CFO basically said, now that we have Intaccct, I'm confident we're able to double the number of stores, the number of entities, and I will tell you that they are growing rapidly in Arizona. We talked about QuickBooks, and just a real quick on there, one of the things you find is that people that are running QuickBooks, they're over-reliant upon spreadsheets. Trust me, Excel is one of the best products out there. We love it, and in fact, Excel integrates with Intaccct very well, but people rely upon it too much to become their financial report writer. They're doing a lot of work with it, so that's one of the biggest challenges with QuickBooks. Excessive manual data entry and re-entry, especially again with a multi-entity. Usually with QuickBooks, you end up having, if you have 5 stores, you have 5 sets of books in QuickBooks, and the ability to do intercompany becomes very manually based. Limited reports, and we'll talk about that in a moment when we start showing our dashboard when you first log in. The difficulty adapting new business requirements, and last but not least, inadequate controls around financial requirements. So, as again, workflow process and things like that. If you look at the markets or the segments that Intaccct relies upon, there's over 12,000 companies, not users, but companies using Intaccct at this point here. And they hit in very different industries, but one of the key industries out there is the franchise industry. So for example, if you look in the lower right-hand corner, we highlighted in red, KFC, Taco Bell, Burger King, Jimmy John's, all of those should be named brands that we all recognize, but they're all franchises. Those are things that it's designed to help report in and get the information from the individual entities. One of the other important things about about Intaccct is that its endorsement and recognized success by the AICPA, the IFAC, and American Express. No software besides Intaccct has been recommended by the AICPA. It is also, well, you see on the left-hand side, one of the best PC Magazine's best small biz applications, winner of many different awards. But in addition to that, also their workplace is top rated as well. So you got top rated workplace with top software means that you have a successful formula there. And they've been doing this for a long time. One of the things that makes Intaccct work for a lot of businesses, including franchises, is the ability to integrate with other softwares or other products out there. Again, if you're in the, for franchises, a lot of times you're going to be integrating with a payroll solution because you have a large number of employees. Sometimes it's not uncommon to have 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 employees. One of our largest franchises has 12,000 employees out there. That information needs to flow into the accounting system for proper journal entry, allocation to the right stores or right entities, and so as a result, it's important to have those links there on the right-hand side for payroll, specifically right over here. Also, depending upon what you're trying to do, if you need budget and planning, expense reports, and things like that, we have the ability to integrate with many different products out there. And this is just a small number of the ones that are out there right now. And we'll be happy to, as we learn more about your business, making sure that those integration touch points are addressed within the scope of work and within the overall project. Because again, double data entry, we're in 2017 now. We should not have to do that. So what makes Intaccct different? Well, what I'm looking at right now, and when we go into the actual demo, you'll see this again, but when we log in here, immediately we're able to see a dashboard. One of the things that we find is that, and it's important to any implementation of Intaccct, is making sure your dashboards are set up correctly. When you log in in the morning, if you're looking at a list of modules and you're going down and running report after report after report, that is not going to be the way to manage a system. When you come in the morning, first thing you should be looking at is, what is my revenue per employee? So obviously we have our employees listed in the system as a statistical account. What's my gross profit? What's my gross margin? My net profit, and again, net profit margin. We should be able to look at this information on a timely basis and actually a real-time basis to understand and make better business decisions. On the left-hand side, we can do revenue analysis. And I'm going to show you in a moment how we can do that in different ways. But we can also show you by location the multiple revenue by location, and we can consolidate your entities in real time. Down in the middle here, we can be looking at things such as budget versus actual. In every organization, the only way that you make money is by having a budget. And that's extremely important. So having that budget in the system and be able to look at real-time budget to actual expenses is going to be important. One of the other modules that Intaccct has offered is something called spend control. So for example, you're able, and it's a new module that's out that just came out in the last, about 120 days, that allows you to create budgets for specific accounts, and if you're entering a purchase order against that specific account with the different dimensions, it will then say, hey, you've exceeded your spend control, what do you want to do? So it actually, in the system now, we have, besides budgeting, we have spend control that affects the purchasing system. Is there any questions so far? I'm going to take a 2-second break here, make sure there's no questions that are coming in. Nope, looks like we're all good. So with that, the way that Intaccct is architectured, we have multi-ledger. So we have the ability for multi-ledgers, multi-books, meaning a cash versus accrual. We can also do multi-dimensions, which we'll talk about in about 30 seconds here. Multi-entity, so each one of your entities can then consolidate it up. And if you get into things such as multi-currency, not a huge part in a lot of franchises, but if it is, you're able to have that currency roll up. And then last but not least, integration focus. So the ability to bring in information from your membership and systems or from other places to bring in expenses that will allow you to have real-time reporting going on. So as you can see, Intaccct is focused on finance. What makes Intaccct different than any other product out there is the way it handles dimensions. And that is a very unique concept, because the way that it's opposed to the general ledger, what we have is we have a main account number. But with that, we are able to tag data elements a lot of times automatically to each transaction. And what that allows us to do, for example, is that if we're tagging the entity into the transaction or your location, we're able to then extrapolate that information. You can also have things such as customer or vendors associated to it, or specific items, or territories. And what that does is that in the general ledger detail, every entry you make has all these elements. So you can easily produce an income statement or an income statement or expense statement by entity, or roll it up and say, if you're passing in the customer information, we can take a look at your customer demographics as they come in, or we can be looking at specific, we could do reports by location or customer types, depending upon how that information is coming in from your membership or other revenue systems or point of sale system. So once it's in the system, we can then slice and dice and produce financial statements and all the things that you would want based upon those dimensions. Out of the box, you're given 8 dimensions for Intaccct, and most of our clients, that is perfect. So to keep this entertaining, and don't believe in PowerPoints very much, thought we would dive right into the PowerPoint at this point. Dive right into the presentation at this point, unless there's any questions on the PowerPoint that I had. And I'm going to give it 15 seconds here. And looks like we don't have any questions, so I am going to dive right into the actual Intaccct demo. So with that, I'm going to minimize my screen here, and I am going to go right into Intaccct. So the way I've got my Intaccct set up here is at the very top level, right here I have something called my top level. The way that Intaccct works is that by using a top level, if I do something at the top level, I can then allocate it down to my individual GL account, to my individual entities or locations. That allows me to take an invoice that comes in, and I can say, oh, I want to allocate so much to Texas, so much to Maine, so much to California. And it allows me to have that ability to allocate it out. What's nice here is that when I'm looking at this presentation, it's showing me all of my stores, all of my stuff combined together. And it makes so I'm getting a picture of everything combined together. We can set up security by location, so that's one of the other things that we're able to do. So we can set up security by location, and we'll show you when we start drilling down into this. The other thing from a financials point of view is that setting up a new entity should not be a long process. When you enter things at the top level, such as your GL accounts, it passes them down to the local entities. If you want to set up a specific account maybe for Texas or for Maine, such as a payroll expense or something that's unique to that state, then you can set up that GL account. But what's nice is that at the top level, it passes it down to each of the individual entities. As you can see here, I've got on my controller dashboard, I'm looking at my assets, my accounts receivable, net sales, able to see this information very quickly and telling me pluses and minuses. On down here, I'm able to start seeing my revenue by Texas, Maine, Florida, and California. I can also start seeing my sales by product line. But other things that I put in here, and when you log in, this is all real time. So I'm able to start seeing my balance sheet for each of my different locations. I can then start looking at my, my budget and actuals, statement of cash flows by location, and I could drill down into any of these numbers if I wanted to. If I wanted to switch to a different entity at this point here, I can switch to the Texas entity. And what you'll see is that when I switch to that, it opens up another tab at the top. So at the top, as you can see, I've got my micro accounting demo, but I'm also now at my Texas entity. And when it brings up this demo, this information here, this dashboard, it's going to show me my assets, my accounts receivable, my net income, specifically for Texas at this point. When it also brings that information up, I'm also able to start seeing information such as, so Texas is overall, but I'm able to break down Dallas and Austin, for example. I'm able to break down from a statement of cash flows my Austin and Dallas location. And then again, I'm able to start looking at it differently. So as a result, what you'll start finding is that within the Texas location, I've got two different segments within there. I've got Austin and Dallas. Very quickly, you're able to work within a location. Within that location, you might break down your stores differently or your franchises differently based upon the rules in that area. So if you're going in many different states, your states might be your entities, and then within those you might have your individual locations. Everyone's a little bit different the way they set that up, but you have the ability to roll this up, and again, you have the ability for security within the system at that point. I'm going to go back to the main level at this point here for the entity. One of the other things that's very, very powerful in the system is the ability to enter expenses and be able to handle expenses, workflow processes, and in the system journal entries. So for example, if I was to go in and create a new bill for a specific, and in fact, we'll just start off with creating a new bill right off the top here. So if I was to come in, I clicked on the little plus sign, it's bringing me into my bill here at this point, and it's asking me for my vendor. So I'm going to choose one of my vendors, Cisco Foods, and at this point here, I can take a look at this information. I can click on this button here to actually view the vendor itself, and when you do that here, I'm going to let it bring it up here, we can very quickly, and we can actually edit this if I had permissions here. We can start seeing their address, information about the vendor. We can start looking at additional information such as their 1099. We can look at the different contacts. And what's nice about here is we can have a primary contact, a pay to contact, a return to contact, and even a 1099 contact. How are we paying them? So one of the things that's built into the system is ACH. You shouldn't have to pay extra for that. That's part of the system. But the other thing that we can also set up restrictions on is how is that vendor used. So for example, once I set up this vendor, we might say that this vendor is restricted only to Texas or to California and is not allowed to be used in other states. So we can set up those those restrictions based upon location and departments in the system. One of the other things that you will see within the system, and it's everywhere the system is in, is that we've got something called this little write something here. And we've got a little notes here saying make sure we get their W-9 form for 1099s ASAP. One of the features they've added in the last couple of years is a product called Collaborate. It's actually built on the Salesforce platform. You do not need to pay for it. It's part of the existing system. And what this allows you to do is keep notes about any screen or anything in the system and talk about that and communicate. One of the biggest failures that we're seeing in businesses right now is email. If I was to send this email to my accountant, my bookkeeper, my CFO, and talk about the W-4, we're now looking at it's in my email, which I've got too many emails that I've sent, and it's in their email. If they were to leave and that email at that point is now lost. So why not keep a log of it against the original transaction and have that information collaborate within the Intaccct system itself? So what I'm able to do at this point is I can write something, I can attach a file, share a link, do a post, and when they log in up top in the upper right hand corner, they will actually be able to see anything that I need to take action on, or anything that's shared specifically with me at that point. And I can then respond to that and keep everything going against the original transaction in the system. I'm going to close this out here so I can look at my vendor. This point here, where am I paying it to, remitting to? I could bring in the bill number, reference number, and description. Now, one question that we usually get asked is, can this information be imported in? The answer is yes. There's a couple different ways it could be brought in. It could be brought in manually by keying it in. We can create Excel templates for you to bring it in via that way, or we can create automation that brings it in from a system via API. So we've got many different ways of bringing this information into the system. Terms is based upon pay upon paid. We can set a due date in here, a payment priority. We can also scan in attachments within the system. And one of the nice things about this is that we can take an attachment, for example. I'm going to take just a invoice here, my Blue Sky invoice, and I can now view the attachment at this point. And when that comes up, it will bring a picture of oops, sorry, I had a problem with that. I'm not sure why that didn't bring up, but we're able to put any attachments on here. You get 10 gigs of storage of attachments. So you can attach copies of all your PDFs, of invoices that are sent to you electronically, and then not have to worry about going back to the paper copy anymore, or I guess this case here again, tagging that. It's also because we turned on multi-currency in our system, we're able to then determine where the currency. At this point here, we're going to use everything in United States dollars. Now, at this point here, I'm going to bring in my GL account. So I'm going to type in, I can start typing in the GL account number, or just simply start typing in the description. If I just click on the little drop down, I could choose my GL account at this point here, and I am going to choose, for this case here, I'm just going to choose some travel entertainment here, not lodging, but we'll choose that for right now. What is the transactions amount at this point here? And what next happens is that we have, this is where the power of this Intaccct comes in, is that we have the ability to allocate this out. We can create predefined allocations that will automatically allocate this to different locations or different departments based upon different formulas. We could put a memo regarding this. We could put I say what department is this for, and then most importantly, because we have it set to be there, we can say what department do we, or excuse me, what location. So as you can see here, I could do Texas, I could do Austin or Dallas. Now, I don't like the way this was originally numbered. I'm going to be honest here. So it's hard to see that Austin and Dallas roll up. That's because of the numbering scheme. Again, I'm not a huge fan of it in this system, but we're able to create those subcategories and choose. So if I choose that this one goes to Texas here, I can then have another line. I'm going to choose the same account number here. And at this point here, I'm only going to do $500. And I can then say, I want to put this against, and we'll put this against good old California. So as you can see here, I can allocate it out, and when I do that, it's going to automatically do the all the GL entries for me, the intercompany, and all the things that would normally have to happen at this point here. At this point, what's nice is that I can have a couple different options. I could post this or post this and give me a new one. I could also say this is a draft at this point here. So I'm just going to say post this and give me a new one, and a due date's required. So obviously I was not paying attention to anything in the red, so data entry becomes very easy. I'm going to say it's due May 5th, and I'm going to now say post and new, and at this point it's now been posted. If I had an approval process set up, it would happen in a different way, and usually most of your approval processes come through the purchasing module anyway, so we can then go through unapproved invoices and things like that. At any given time, I'm now able to click on the little lookup here, and at that point, since it's been posted, I can start seeing a status of all my invoices. One of the most powerful features in the system is the lookups, and people go, yeah, why is that so powerful? Well, first of all, I'm able to customize this. So if I want to look for anything that has the word Cisco in here, so if I'm looking for a vendor, a bunch of their invoices, I can quickly see that. I can quickly get a list of that. If I'm looking for a bill number or a date, I'm able to do that, and I can create multiple filters up top on here. I can start seeing what the status is, and I can also look at the summary here. I can also print or with a click of a button, if I have permissions, I'm able to reverse out this if this was done by mistake. Hopefully it wasn't. But one of the things I'm able to do here is I can actually modify or create a new view. For example here, I want to say show me all my open AP instead. This is one that I created previously. So at this point here, if I click on that, now I will be able to see anything in here that it's got a balance. Now it's sorted by due date, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this in descending order at this point here, and I should be able to see my Cisco food because my total due is still $1,500. And so if I now type in the word Cisco and hit go, now it's being filtered based upon anything open, and now you can start seeing, what's the status: paid, posted, partially paid. These are drafts, so they're not saved at this point here. And these have been selected for printing. So very quickly, I'm able to see the status of all my bills for this one specific vendor at this point. Within the AP module, at this point, I would be able to do a check run, and I can even go in once I do the approve payments, things like that. So system is very flexible in what you're able to do. Any questions regarding this? So the nice thing about this, again, is that we have now posted an invoice to the current month that hit two different entities at the exact same time. So if I went back to my dashboards here, and you can see that one of the things that we have is we have the ability for multiple dashboards in the system. What does that mean? Well, if I wanted to go to the controller dashboard, once this comes up, this is now looking at, it's now running all the reports all real time. So again, the more stuff you on here, sometimes it takes a little bit more longer every time to bring this up. But what this shows me at this point here is that I have got my, this is my controller's dashboard. This has been customized specifically for them at this point here. I can also run this and say, you know what, give me the purchasing operations dashboard instead. And what that person will have is when they come in the morning, they're looking at what invoices do they need to approve. They're looking at the vendor aging report very quickly. They're looking at purchasing transactions, so they can start seeing this information a lot faster at this point. So the goal is that everyone's going to customize their dashboards for their individual needs. Hope that makes sense. One of the next things that we can definitely go into is looking at, for example, we can look at our trial balances in the general ledger. So one of the neat things that when you run any report or most reports from within the system is that, for example, I'm going to say for the current month, what books do I want? I'm going to do my my accrual books. And what I'm able to do at this point is I'm saying, show me accounts with only activity or show me zero balance accounts. I'm going to say do not include. You can also, by the way, memorize these report settings. I have not done that, but I can memorize these report settings. And then at this top level here, I can choose the location that I wanted to print this for. If I choose everything, it's going to roll it all up together, which department, which project, per customers, which vendor, which would bring a cost automatically based upon the AP invoice, the employee, all that information. What's the format? What do I want to see this in? When I get this report to the way I like it, I can actually just say view, and I'm going to view it at this point here. So very, very quickly here, I can start seeing my lodging expense that happened at this point here. I can start seeing a debit, and then I can also start seeing $1,000 intercompany payable going through here. So I'm going to click on my little $1,500. So our reports are drill downable. I'm going to click on the $1,500 for the lodging, which was the invoice I just created. And it's going to bring this up. And at this point here, I can start seeing the journal entry that it created. from that point, I can now start going one step further. I'm going to click on the $1,000 debit at this point here. And once this comes up, I can actually drill down directly back into the AP invoice. So you can drill down into the journal entry, and then you can drill down into the source transaction from within here. I'm going to say cancel at this point here. I'm going to take myself back to the main area. I'm going to say, I'm going to go back one more step here. And at this point here, I'm going to close this out, bring this, so notice that it brought up another window at this point. I'm able to customize this. So if I click on customize, it will bring me back to the previous screen. I can print this. I can process and store this into a PDF or another process. I can export this out to Excel, CSV, or text file. I can memorize this report setting so I don't have to constantly change things. And last but not, I can email it, and I can also add it to my dashboards. So again, your dashboards should be used for when you log in the morning to help you get the information you want in a timely fashion. A vendor aging report could be on your dashboard as well. So quickly look at what people are owing you, what you owe people. You can get that information very, very quickly in the system. Any questions so far? So the last thing that I thought we would go over today is talking about the finance report writer in the system. A lot of people ask, are your reports flexible, customizable? The answer is yes. So the first thing we have the ability in the system is under the reports area here. We can set up different reports. I can list out on the left-hand side here, give me all of the reports in the system. I can show my favorite reports, any reports that have been created by myself. I can look at memorized reports or any schedule reports. And the nice thing about this system is that you're able to schedule out reports. It will be sent to you automatically. And again, because it's done by Intaccct, you don't have to worry about mail servers. It's all being done, and it'll be sent out from their servers automatically and processed when you schedule it out. On the right-hand side here, I can say, give me a new report, and you have a couple of different options here. One is you can do a financial report, which we'll talk about in a moment. You can do a graph, but you can also do a custom report, and you can go with their wizard, or you can start with an existing report and then customize it at that point. One of the neat things about the wizard here is that if I was to click on the wizard, it's a pretty sophisticated process, and they're actually enhancing this in one of the following later releases for 2017. But what you have the ability to do here is you say, for example, which area of the system are you pulling this from? If I do my AP bills, for example, and as you can start seeing here, it's a 12-step program. So based upon that data source, it's then going to ask me, what columns do I want in the report, summaries, things like that. I'm not going to go through the whole report process right now, but it does give you the ability to do the reports you want. And one of the other things that people find interesting with Intaccct is that you can actually integrate Excel directly with Intaccct. There's a third-party add-on that allows you to integrate Excel directly into Intaccct. So even though this is a cloud-based solution, you can run it in a lot of ways, just like an on-premise system. I'm going to hit cancel here. And what I'm going to now do is I'm going to say, give me a new financial report. And just to show you how this one works here, I'm going to set up a sample, sorry, my mouse was off there. I will do a sample franchise report. And it's asking us, what is our report structure here? Are we looking at accounts, or are we looking at dimensions at this point here? So we can actually do a report, as you can see here, a financial report based upon customers. We could do it based upon vendors. We could do it different ways. And as you can see, you start looking at the revenue and expenses by column. We're at this point here, we're going to just do accounts. And at this point, the next section is to do the rows. So I'm going to click my rows, and it's going to ask me, what do I want to see in my rows? And as you can see, there's a lot of wizards, and it's supposed to be interactive here to make sure you don't make any mistakes. So we can click on select account groups, and it's going to say, what do you want to see? And at this point here, based upon my way my accounts are set up, I'm going to say, show me my sales. I'm going to include that in the report. I'm going to choose my cost of goods sold, and I'm going to then get my gross profit at this point. So getting some basic information that I need. So with that, it's going to say, do you want to show the information detail or summary? And as you can start seeing, it's producing that information. The next question is my columns. And this is where, as you saw originally, I can start restricting things down to the entity at this point here. So the very first column that I have is going to be the account name and column and all that. And then my second column is going to be my actuals. I can say, for example, the actuals, we're going to choose for the current month. We're going to now look at this information, and what I'm able to now do is I can say dimension structure, and I can say, you know what, for my location, Texas here, not sure why that popped up, but we'll just fix this real quick. You know what, I made one little mistake here. I'm going to hit the, we're going to do this, and we could basically put in a filter at this point here. I'm going to say cancel because my, for some reason it's not, does not, demand by location. Sorry, I did the wrong thing. So we're going to do it this way. We're going to say show all levels with roll up. So what that's going to do is it will show me all of my different locations at this point here. What is nice about this is that I can actually right-click click up here, and I can add columns to the left and right. There is no limit of what you can do. So I'm going to add another column to the right. And what's nice about this is that very quickly, once it adds this column onto the screen, I can now say, for example, give me my, what do I want in here? I can actually give me my budget number. I could choose which budget am I pulling this against. And again, I could choose how do I want to expand this by location. And again, it will show me how this is all working. So now if I was to do a preview here, and I'm going to do a live report in HTML, I can start seeing how this report will look. Once it brings this information up. So I'm going to give it 30 seconds here. And I would be able to see how this all comes together. Looks like it's thinking, but I'm going to, for the sake of time here, I'm going to close this out. In the end, you'll be able to create your reports. You can do computation, filters, formatting, permissions, who can actually run this report at this point here, and then that's it. One of the nice things that if you do have a report that you like, very quickly you can click on duplicate and actually make changes to it very quickly at this point. I'm going to say cancel. I'm not going to save my changes on this report here. But as you can see, you've got the ability to you've got the ability to customize any report that you want, create a lot of reports in the system, and be able to basically create a very nice presentation. Just to show you here, I'm just going to run a quick report here. You can see this is what I was hoping to get here. And again, based upon being a balance sheet here, I can show my different locations. And that's why when I said roll it up, we can say show me Texas, or I could have showed the other two subcategories of Dallas or Austin in that case. Any questions regarding this? So going back to the very basic or very back to the beginning here, what Intaccct is designed to do is to help you consolidate, help you bring in your entities together, help you that if you're going to bring in, if you're a franchise like all of you, able to bring in the associate the dimensions so you can basically run financials by location. If you have departments within those locations, run it that way. Be able to run it by vendor. Basically be able to manipulate and report upon the data in a timely manner. That's what Intaccct is designed to do. Again, being endorsed by the AICPA, it's one of the few products out there, and you're able to get a lot of information very quickly out of the system. It is able to handle most franchises needs out there, including intercompany and consolidation and also integration. With that, what I'm going to do is we're at the end of our presentation here, and I want to make sure everyone has enough time to ask any questions. So if you would like to ask anything at this point, please feel free to do so. I will stay on the line for another 5 minutes. Otherwise, I do appreciate you guys spending the time today going through this with us, and appreciate that and hope to talk to you all later. Have a great day.